Good day and welcome back to my lesson. Today's main objective is to quickly run over um, what are the main points about the circulatory system using the slides. Now, just to note, I may be skipping certain slides because they have already been reinforced. So this is really just a quick run through of what the main points are using the slides. Now, without further ado, let's start. Alright, so this is basically a slide to recap on what you have learned previously. So we understand that the main idea that we have learned previously is on your digestive system. Now that is covered in primary 4, whereby you'll note that food substances are way too large. So they need to be digested to basically give you something that is small enough or soluble, that means it can be dissolved in liquids, all right, so that it can travel or rather to be small enough to be absorbed into your bloodstream. Okay, so it is only when it's small enough to be absorbed into your bloodstream, only then can it be delivered to all parts of the body as correctly mentioned in this point over here. So basically, oxygen is also another very important component which we have talked about in our previous lesson, which is obtained from your respiratory system. Now I want to stress once again, respiration is not the same as breathing, as many people have this serious misconception. Breathing is really something of a mechanical process. You can observe your chest cavity becoming bigger when you breathe in, and when you breathe out you can see it shrinking. Whereas respiration is a chemical process that occurs at a cellular level in every single living cell in your body. Now the general idea of your respiration is to actually get energy ultimately from your digested food in the presence of oxygen. All right. Now, before that, I also want to point out that your circulatory system doesn't just carry useful resources around your body, it also serves to remove them. Now, in your later stages of your education in secondary school, you'll be exposed to a wider range of different types of waste materials, such as urea, which forms your urine. You will also be exposed to many different types which I will not talk about. So at your level, primary school level, you need to be concerned with the waste matter known as carbon dioxide. Now this carbon dioxide is a type of gas that can be found naturally in the air we breathe in. However, it is also produced from respiration, which of course you would have already learned in your previous chapter of respiratory system, whereby we talked about respiration. All right, so let's carry on to the next slide. So the whole idea of circulatory system, all right, it acts like a transport system. Okay, now basically you can think of it as your whole entire body. I'm going to zoom in all the way. It's made up of many tiny little cells. It's so small until I'm going to have to zoom in all the way, and you still may not be able to this does not really justify the size of a cell. The real size of a cell is really so tiny, you're going to need a microscope to be able to see it. So what happens is that each and every one of these cells, generally, they are undergoing something known as respiration. Okay, now the whole concept about it, if you recall, is to actually obtain energy from food, okay, digested food, all right, in the presence of oxygen. Okay, so respiration cannot happen without, firstly, digested food, secondly, oxygen. So you think about it, you have cells over here, you also have cells over there and here and everywhere. In fact, every part of your body they are made out of cells. Every single organ in your body, they are made out of cells. However, if you remember, the part that actually gets your oxygen in the first place would be your lungs, where gaseous exchange actually happens. So the whole idea is I need to be able to transport this oxygen that has been obtained in your lungs very quickly to every single cell and every single part of your body. So in order to do that, Mother Nature is wonderful. We have this thing known as the circulatory system, which is basically a system that is made up of a network. If you take a look at it, I'm going to trace it out in green, of all your different blood vessels, alright, that's able to allow blood to flow through them. So your blood is the one that carries the oxygen in it. Okay, oxygen gets dissolved in your lungs over here, and then as your blood flows through your body, they carry with them oxygenated blood. This oxygen would then be delivered to all parts of your body, every single cell. Now at the same time as your blood is flowing through, passing by all the cells and passing them oxygen, they are also collecting waste product. Alright, so hence in this slide, that is why they pointed out that one main function is to transport to all parts of the body these items and another function of it is to transport these items out of the body, such as carbon dioxide and waste materials. So once again, these waste materials, there are multiple types. One other common example would be your urea, which forms your urine. So therefore, we can say that the human circulatory system is a transport system to transport substances quickly in and out of the human body. Alright? Now moving on. Okay? So the first point here, we've already said in the previous slide, it transports substances in and away from parts of our body. Now, the circulatory system consists of your heart and your blood vessels and your blood. Now, the heart is generally, you can think of it like the main machine that pumps and drives. It provides the force to actually push your blood around the body. Now, your blood vessels are just tubes, alright? Very of different sizes that actually allows or provides a pathway for your blood to flow through them, okay? And of course, you have your blood. Now, I like to think of blood as something. Now, blood is not just a pure component on its own. A blood is actually made of many substances. Okay, so you can think of it like when you make Milo. So when you make Milo, you know, you need to have your Milo powder, water. Some of you like to put more sugar, condensed milk, or normal milk. And when you actually mix everything together, it becomes a nice cup of Milo, right? So you would just call it Milo. But in fact, Milo is made up of so many different things. You've got your Milo powder, you've got your sugar, you've got your milk. So that is the exact same thing that blood is. Blood is just not blood, but blood is made up of many different types of components in it. You've got your just to name a few, if you're interested, you've got your red blood cells, you have your platelets, which helps to clot your blood, you've got your plasma, which is the liquid component of your blood, you've got so many other things, white blood cells. Okay, so it's really a whole mixture of many different things coming together. Okay, and of course you've got your carbon dioxide and your other waste products that dissolve into it as well. So generally these parts work together to transport substances throughout the body. So remember this, that you are actually going to have to remember that systems is basically made up of different components coming together and then working together in order to keep a particular function going. Okay, so that is the system that we are talking about here. Now, moving on to the next slide. Now, the circulatory system, let's talk about the heart in particular. Now, the heart is a muscular organ, okay, that is about the size of our fist. Now, a lot of people think that, just a side note, the heart is actually located on the left side of our chest. Now, technically, that is, it doesn't really reside all the way to the left. The heart actually is more or less in the center of our chest, but it's tilted towards, pointing towards the left. So hence we always say, it's towards the left side of the cavity. All right, but in actual fact, it's not really all the way to the left. Okay, now your rib cage is part of your skeletal system. Okay, that protects important organs in the upper regions of your body, not just your heart but also your lungs, if you recall from your previous chapter. Okay, so it lies between the two lungs in our chest. So what does it do? It acts like a pump and works by relaxing and contracting continuously to pump blood around to all parts of the body. Okay, so this is the heart. So even at it, if you can see all these lines that I'm outlining now, okay, this is actually a blood vessel to supply blood to the heart, because the heart is made up of muscle cells that requires a lot of energy to pump, right? So in order to get energy, remember this, your heart muscles will need to undergo respiration. So in order for respiration to occur, you will need oxygen and digested food, which is carried by your blood vessels. Okay. So when the heart pumps, it produces a loud dub sound within each heart. Now, heart rate is the number of times the heart beats per minute. So our heartbeat rate really varies. It depends on our age, health, and the type of activity we are carrying out. So generally speaking, we would have a higher heartbeat rate, given everything the same. Our age and health conditions are the same. The higher the level of exercise intensity, the higher our heartbeat rate, which I'm going to explain to you in a little while. Now, more about the heart. So it's basically made of involuntary muscles, meaning that you don't have to think mentally that your heart must pump every single time. So it's just like, for example, if you don't have to make a conscious effort. For example, you can think about it like, for example, if you want to clench your fist, now you have to make a conscious effort that you want to clench your fist, right? Then you will clench your fist. But you don't really have to do that to your heart. You pump, and then your heart will pump now. At the same time, you can also think about it in the sense that you cannot stop your heart from pumping also. So you think about it, if let's just say it was voluntary and you could stop your heart from pumping anytime you want to pump, it becomes a very dangerous situation whereby you could actually just drop dead, because there is a lack of blood flow, okay, flowing around your body. Okay, so that is what is meant by involuntary muscles, meaning that you cannot stop it, neither can you tell your muscles to start doing something. Now another example of involuntary muscles is actually your eyes. Okay, your pupil actually can open or close depending on the amount of light, allowing you to see clearly under different situation. There is another example where you can find involuntary muscles. Okay, moving on. Now, I'm going to leave this question to you. The left ventricle is thicker and stronger. Why? Go and do some research on it if you have the time. Now, I'm just going to give you a hint. Think about where does the right side pump blood to, and where does your left side pump blood to. Alright, and that's the reason why one side is actually thicker than the other. And you can also think of it as the thicker it is, the more muscle cells there are. Right? So as your heart contracts, it will pump blood out of the heart, and when it relaxes, it allows blood to enter the heart. Now, moving on. Okay, so what is a heartbeat? A heartbeat is basically a cycle of contraction and relaxation of heart that is considered as one heartbeat. What is a pulse? A pulse is basically a pressure wave that passes along your blood vessels after every heartbeat. So your pulse always comes after the heartbeat. Okay, think about it in that way. They are not the same. Okay, let's talk about blood vessels. Blood vessels are really important. There are basically three types of blood vessels. All right, you have your artery, capillaries, and your veins. Now, you can general information would be your artery is the thickest. All right, it is muscular. All right, in order to withstand high pressure of blood, because it connects to your heart, or rather it's the main vessel that delivers blood to all parts of your body. It needs to be able to withstand the high pressure that is generated by the heart. All right, and then after that you have your capillaries, which actually runs in between your cells. All right, delivering oxygen to your cells. Okay, so you can think about, if we're going to think of these as your capillaries, so what you have in between here, which I've drawn in green, are your cells. So what happens is that it enables your oxygen to flow in and out very, very quickly. Okay, so going in will be your oxygen, and going out back into the bloodstream would be your CO2. Okay, carbon dioxide, and O2 is oxygen. So as you can see, by having this network of capillaries, which is single cell and very, very thin, you're able to deliver your oxygen and digested food much more efficiently because of the increase in surface area. Now your veins are the one that delivers oxygen back to your heart, and your arteries is actually the blood vessel that delivers blood away from the heart. So one way you can think of it is A is for away, so A for arteries, and then vein is in, so you can say into heart. That's one way that I like to remember the direction of blood flow. So an artery always delivers blood away from the heart, whereas a vein always delivers blood back into the heart. Okay? Now, this question, think about it. Which arrows above represent the flow of blood that contains more oxygen, red or blue arrows? So, before I begin, we should always think about, where do you think oxygen comes from? So the point of origin of oxygen would definitely have to come from your lungs, right? So I'm going to say that the blood that is coming out of your lungs over here has the highest amount of oxygen. Alright? So therefore, if you follow the flow of it from the lungs, it will be that the arrows in red would have the higher amount of oxygen, whereas the arrows in blue over here, they are actually carrying blood that is rich in carbon dioxide, because as they flow through the parts of the body, they will have collected carbon dioxide, which is a waste matter that is formed from respiration. Now, let's dissect this whole point. So how is it that it's being transported? So blood rich in oxygen would flow from your lungs to the heart, as I've explained, because gaseous exchange happens in the lungs and is then pumped to all parts of the body, so that every single part of your body would now receive oxygen and they are able to carry out respiration. Now, the blood also transports digested food and water from the digestive system to all parts of the body. Okay, this is something that you need to keep in mind. Many students tend to forget that digested food is also an important component. This is because respiration cannot just happen with oxygen. Digested food also needs to be present. Now, the blood also transports waste materials such as carbon dioxide, like what I've always pointed out, from various parts of the body. Actually, it's from all parts of the body. Basically, you need to have a way to transport all this carbon dioxide from any part of your body to your lungs so that you can be expelled out. The blood returns to the heart and is sent to the lungs. Carbon dioxide is then removed and oxygen is taken in. So this is the part whereby we're talking about gaseous exchange. Okay, other materials are passed up from the body through various means. For example, your urea would basically be transported to your kidneys to be expelled out as urine. Right, moving on. So this is the part where you need to fill in the blanks. So deoxygenated blood, which is also known as blood that has got low levels of oxygen, okay, transports waste materials such as carbon dioxide away from all parts of the body to the heart, then to the lungs where the carbon dioxide is removed. Blood that is rich in oxygen, also known as oxygenated blood, from the lungs is sent to the heart to be pumped to all parts of the body. Why? Because respiration has to happen and it cannot happen without oxygen or digested food substances. Blood also transports digested food and water from the digestive system to all parts of the body. Alright? Now, the circulatory system doesn't just work as a single system on its own. It is actually very closely linked to your digestive and respiratory system. Why? So remember, I told you in order for respiration to happen, it must have two things. One, digested food. Two, it also needs oxygen. So you get your digested food from your respiratory system, okay? You get your digested food from your digestive system and your oxygen from your respiratory system. Alright? So that is why these three systems needs to work together in order to deliver the needed raw materials for your cells to carry out respiration. Alright, so I'm just going to pen it down here. So respiratory system gives you your oxygen, whereas your digestive system gives you your digested food, and then together you're able to have respiration in order to release energy. Right? So, moving on. So, as I pointed out previously, food is digested by the digestive system. Then your digested food are absorbed into the blood in the circulatory system, which would then be delivered to every single cell in the body. Okay? Now, at the same time, your circulatory system will also need to work with your respiratory system. Why? It needs to remove your carbon dioxide from the blood. Okay? So what happened is carbon dioxide from the blood in the circulatory system and will enter back into the lungs. It is then removed from respiratory during breathing. So when you exhale out, that is where your carbon dioxide is being breathed out. At the same time, when you inhale, oxygen will enter your lungs, okay, and then it's absorbed by your blood and distributed by your circulatory system. So your digested food, water and oxygen is absorbed into the blood, which is then transported to all parts of your body. These substances are then used by your body parts for respiration. Okay, so this is basically a summary of how your respiratory system works together with your circulatory system. So when air is exhaled, carbon dioxide from the blood will enter back into the lungs, and then it is removed from the respiratory system when we breathe out or when we exhale. When air is inhaled, oxygen will enter the lungs and it's then absorbed into the blood. Okay? And how does your circulatory system and your digestive system interact? Waste materials is transported by the blood to be removed by the organs. Water and digested food is absorbed into the blood. So sometimes, just a side note, water can be considered as a waste product or can be considered as a useful product based on the situation. So for example, if you're drinking a lot of water and there's excess water, you need to remove water, right? So that's where it be transported to the kidneys and then you'll be removed as part of the urine, formation of urine as a waste product, alright? Just so that you know. However, water is an essential product that is needed by the body, just so that you understand. Okay? Now, digested food, water and oxygen is transported by the blood to all parts of the body for respiration. Alright, and your digestive system is where food is digested. Okay, so as you can see, these three systems, they are really interlinked. Okay, so this question, why do both our heart rate and breathing exercise increase when we exercise? Okay, so this is pretty straightforward actually. Now, remember previously I told you the higher the level of intensity, the higher the rate of heartbeat. Okay, now the reason why that is so, I would like you to think about what is the main driving force behind our activities. What do we need to have, alright, in order to carry out any form of activities? Now I hope that you're on the same page with me and that you understand the primary thing that we need is actually energy. So the first thing we have to recognize to answer this question is the higher the level of activity, okay, will then equate to a higher amount of energy. Now, in order to get a higher amount of energy, you will need a higher amount of respiration, right? And in order to get a higher amount of respiration, okay, you will need a higher amount of, you guessed it, all right, oxygen as well as digested food. Now, in order to get a higher amount of oxygen and digested food, you would then need an increased rate of heartbeat. Okay, so when your heart, why is that so? Because when your heart beats at a faster rate, you're actually pumping blood faster around your body so that more oxygen and digested food can actually be delivered to your cells, therefore enabling them to carry out a higher rate of respiration, resulting in more energy being released, therefore supporting the increase in demand of energy by this increased intensity of activity. Right, and that's how we can unpack this. So this is why our heart rate and breathing rate increases. Now, breathing rate in this case talks about the fact that you want to get more oxygen. All right, so they are correlated in that way. Okay, so this one is really talking about blood vessels, okay, being blocked, being clogged. Now, a heart attack will only happen if the blood vessels delivering blood specifically to your heart is being blocked. That's where you get a heart attack. Okay, now just for your side info, not all blood vessels being blocked will lead to a heart attack. Only your coronary artery. Okay, so your coronary artery is basically the artery that supplies blood directly to your heart. So when that is blocked, you get a heart attack. Okay, so they are asking, why does a diet that is rich in oil, fats, cholesterol increase the chances of heart attacks? Well, basically because when you eat food that is high in fats and cholesterol, they end up forming this really thick layer inside the tube, or the inside the blood vessel. Okay, think of a blood vessel as tube, and what happens, okay, you're looking at a cross section of a tube, is that these fats will accumulate, okay, at the side, and they will start to harden. So what happens is, as it hardens, you realize that the amount of space that now blood can go through is reduced, which I'm coloring in blue. So the amount used to be, say, this much has been now reduced to just the area of blue color. So this reduction in blood flow actually sorts of cuts off or reduces greatly the amount of oxygen and digested food substances that is being delivered to your heart muscles. So think about it. What do you think will happen to your heart muscle cells if they don't receive enough oxygen and digested food substances? You got it right. Respiration cannot occur, and without respiration, you will not get energy. Without energy, your cells will eventually die, and that is what leads to a heart attack. Right? I hope I have clarified that. So let's take a look at the next slide. Now, the heart rates can also vary because of your age, right? When you are younger, you tend to have a faster heartbeat rate. Now, why? This is because the heart is smaller, so the capacity that it can pump is not that much. So to compensate for that, alright, you need to pump faster in order to pump the required amount of oxygen and digested food around the body. And don't forget, for a young child, you tend to have a very, very, very high metabolic rate, which means that you tend to use up energy very quickly. Now, why is that so? I hope all of you guessed it right. Now, that's because as a young child, your body is trying to grow. So in order to grow, you will need a lot of energy. So a lot of energy equates to you needing a lot more respiration that takes place. Alright, so therefore your heart has to pump harder. Now his heart's muscles are also less developed. He is also more active. Alright, if you have a child running around and everything else. So more oxygen and more digested food is needed by cells. You know, I keep saying digested food. Actually, this digested food, just for your information, because you would be exposed to it sooner or later, is actually glucose. What is glucose? Glucose is the simplest form of a sugar. Sorry, just let me pen this down for you. It's the simplest sugar. Okay? Alright, so ultimately you want to get it down to the simplest form so that respiration can occur. Now moving on, what about an elderly? So an elderly has a slower heartbeat rate. Now why? Because he is less active, right? He doesn't move that much. So less oxygen, and you got it right, less digested food is needed by cells. Well done. Last but not least, so why do you need why does your heartbeat rate needs to go up when you exercise? We have answered this previously. This is just a summary. So the heartbeat faster, okay, which means that your heartbeat rate increases during exercise because the heart pumps faster, not more but faster, to transport blood, okay, more quickly. To provide more digested food and oxygen to the body to produce more energy. Now at this time point, I want to stress the importance of the word more. I cannot stress this any more than this. You have to put in the word more when you talk about why does a heartbeat rate increases. So the reason why is during normal times, your heart will still beat. Oxygen and digested food substances are still being transported to your cells. Alright? But during an exercise, these substances are being transported at a faster rate so that more amount of them can reach your body to produce more energy. If you don't put in the word more, it's as if you're telling the examiner that under normal circumstances you do not need oxygen or digested food, or maybe even your cells don't even produce any energy at all. So if your answer just goes, oh, this is so that the heart pump to transport blood in order to supply oxygen and digested food for the cells to produce energy. This is wrong because you're telling me that normally this person doesn't need energy at all. Your cells don't respire at all. They don't produce any energy. That's wrong. Alright, so therefore the word more is very important. Now, why do we breathe more deeply then? Right? Recall, we need oxygen, so it cannot just be your your circulatory system working harder, your respiratory system also needs to work harder in order to take in more oxygen. So our body needs to take in more oxygen so that the heart can pump faster to transport more oxygen rich blood to the body to produce more energy. So as you can see, the word more is very important. Alright, so I've come to the end of my lesson. I'm just going to summarize using this slide. So basically, the circulatory system consists of the heart, blood vessels, and blood. Heart pumps blood to all parts of the body. Blood vessels transports digested food and oxygen to all parts of the body, actually every single cell. Reason, respiration. It also transports carbon dioxide, which is a waste product, and other waste product away from the body for removal. So I hope that you have enjoyed my lesson. Now, do remember to complete your reflection on the next page. Yeah, and last but not least, as this slide shows, the circulatory system works very closely with your respiratory and your digestive system in order to ensure that your body functions well. And primarily, the reason is so that respiration can occur in every single cell. Alright, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to let me know about it. Okay, so I will end my lesson here today. Thank you.